Just a bunch of crappy profile pics.
What's up, y'all? It's Cousin Chet. Back again, going live. So now if we make mistakes, everybody knows it. Oh, that happened before because we didn't do any editing and we just recorded and posted pretty much a live show anyway. So with that being said, we are just playing around. Everybody that's watching and supported us and followed us for the last year, the 20 to 90 of you that are watching, thank you and welcome back. As you can see, we're trying to do a little bit of playing around with the live. Before this, we were going to do like a little picture-in-picture thing, and we were going to show some clips because we were playing with that as well. Been playing with the technology a little bit here recently. So, with that being said,
Off to a rough start.
So,
what the topic for today?
Well, yeah, this is going to be messy, but good citizen, will you take this? And go ahead and plug yourself in.
Doesn't connect to that one.
Oh, it doesn't connect to that one.
Yeah.
Give it back.
Should have named this one text stream.
This is a test.
Yeah.
And with that being said, I mean, we could easily start over.
Maybe that's what we should rename the show. Half Baked.
It's not original.
No, it's not. But it's
Dave Chappelle's idea.
But
this episode is half baked. We are a little half baked. We're like, hey, I don't even look good enough to be on camera.
I'm stone cold sober, and
I need a haircut.
As sad as that gets, but
wow, what up now? Wow.
Have you ever seen Rodney Norman?
Rodney Norman? No, who's Rodney Norman?
He's you right now.
Me.
That's what that looks
like. So 2 minutes in. Thanks for staying. And our topic today is Tucker Carlson just recently had an interview with Ice Cube, and really for me, the topic is kind of Ice Cube, but I think that opening it up with Tucker and Ice Cube is really cool. I don't think that I don't think anything you're doing right there is going to be recorded on this live.
No, it won't.
That was why I was wanting to hook it up to that computer so he might be able to play the clips.
I mean, we can still play it.
Will it come on the live? Will it?
It'll come in on the live.
Do it.
It'll probably be grainy audio, but
let me see.
Here's what we're talking about.
It's not loud enough. Sorry. Sorry, y'all. I want to hear.
That's kind of curious.
I don't want to play.
The whole thing.
Yeah, the whole
But
thing.
it's curious to me how Ice Cube seems like he's really holding back.
I think he's being very reserved. I think he's being very careful, even though part of his thing is like, I want to say what I want to say, but I think at the same time, he's still trying to be careful. And you could almost say it's like he's trying to be respectful, like he's trying to be mature about it. You know what I mean? He doesn't want to give them the ammunition of, because they already have enough, right? Like Jason Whitlock on his podcast, called Fearless, which is supposed to be about saying what you feel is the truth and all that. Jason Whitlock like went in on him and just was like, well, can we trust somebody that talks about paying back their, raping somebody was and sodomizing somebody with a no Vaseline and this gangbanger with this F the police and da 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 da. I don't remember exactly what Jason said, but he. So I think Cube understands that and understands that he has to come out more professional because he's already going to have enough retractors that are saying, why should
What he wanted to say there was vaccines don't get produced in 6 months, not for serious diseases.
Yeah.
And if you whip out, what he's not saying out loud is, okay, so we supposedly didn't know about this disease until like 6-7 months ago. Maybe some higher up knew about it a year ago. Vaccines don't get produced that quickly, and they don't get produced effectively that way. But he's kind of. It's just kind of surreal to see Ice Cube of all people. This is one of the OG NWAs who's even he can tell like he's got a tiptoe.
Well, I mean, he is aware that he has to tiptoe, but like one thing that impressed me and I really feel that benefits Ice Cube is this isn't his first rodeo. See, one thing that like Jason Whitlock tried to say was that, all of a sudden here's this independent thinker. No, Ice Cube has been an independent thinker since he became in the public eye. I mean, if NWA wasn't the original like free speech in the 80s and 90s, you know what I mean? Like they were fighting to be able to do their concerts and sing their songs. There was a lot of pushback. He had letters from the FBI to cease and desist and don't sing this song. And they would go into venues in Detroit and Cincinnati and have police tell them, you play that song and we're going to get, we're going to arrest you. We're going to whatever, you know what I mean? Giving them threats and shit like that. So to me, Ice Cube, he already knows what he's doing. If anybody in this world that is not like your Jesse Jackson types or whatever that are used to this type of this, it would be him. And look at the gangsters he had to face in the music industry as he's trying to finagle against the FBI and all that shit too. You know what I mean? Like it's just I have a lot of respect, and I don't think Ice Cube's brand new about it. I think Ice Cube kind of was getting away from it. Mm-hmm. I think he was getting away from it. I think if they didn't put him in a position, but they put him in a position and they're like, hey, okay, so let me give you a little bit of background of what I understand with him. When COVID was going on, he was set up to do a movie. And they said, you have to get the vaccine. From my understanding, that's what they did. That's what they did to all the actors and actresses if you wanted to be in the movies at that time, you had to get the vaccine. Ice Cube said, I do not want the vaccine. I will rather turn down this movie. He says, and I have no reason not to believe him because he wasn't putting it out. He says he just wanted to be quiet.
Yeah, I'm not calling Ice Cube a coward or anything. What I'm saying is like
so,
he's clearly done his research.
Well, I guess what I'm saying is there's no research. He has experience.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You know,
I think
while Tucker Carlson is going to Yale or Harvard or where the fuck he is, bouncing around the room with fish, you know what I'm saying, at fish concerts and shit, learning how to hone his craft as a, I'm going to guess, kind of upper crust San Francisco white kid. I mean, Ice Cube and Tucker are the same age. They both come from California. While Tucker's in college and doing the college thing, like I said, chasing fish around, bouncing around the room, Ice Cube's in NWA. He's doing tours, talking about fuck the police. You know what I mean? Like, and being threatened to be arrested on his tours and having the FBI send letters to his managers and shit like that. To me, that's not research. That's experience. You know what I mean? And he comes with that. And so then he goes and he gets this kind of, he set himself up with Friday and some of the other movies that he did. He became more of a household name by his movies. He softened his image and things like that. I think that was all intentional. Yeah. But so then it comes to the point where he turns down this movie and he wants to keep it quiet and they pump it out. Ooh, Ice Cube turned down $9 million. What's wrong with him? Excuse me. What's wrong with him? And I think too that he also has tried this organization called the Big Three, which is like a 3-man basketball league. And he's been trying to work with the NBA. And I think he got to a point where he realized that they just coming at him and they're trying to cancel him. And he's like, you can't cancel me. It's like the whole cancel culture is making Ice Cube speak out in a way. Cause they basically backed him into a corner and he's like, well, I guess you didn't know that I was a NWA. You know what I mean? I guess you did. I guess you forgot I was an NWA. You know what I mean? I guess you forgot I had this attitude.
Yeah.
You understand? And so, yeah. And I have to say that I'm very happy to see him doing it. I saw a video with him. I haven't seen him in music in a little while. I saw him in a video with Dre and Snoop and Eminem and Method Man and Redman. And I'm like, look, if anybody is going to be the ones that really stand up for our Constitution right now, it's going to be black folks. And I say that because right now they're like I think that's a topic for another day, but I really do feel like the way the system's set up right now, they're the ones that are being listened to. I know they don't feel like they're being listened to right now, but they're the ones that are being listened to in this kind of transitory situation we're in. And when it comes to the fact that the real enemy between black and white has always been the rich. It has always been the rich and powerful. They have loved to keep us at odds with each other because at the end of the day, it's all about control. And if they can keep us fighting each other, then we're not fighting them. And so,
which really boils down to compartmentalization in a lot of ways.
Nice segue.
I mean, it is, isn't it? It's
go ahead.
You draw some arbitrary line between, okay, well, this is what my side knows. This is what your side knows.
Mm-hmm.
This is my side. This is my side of the track. This is yours. Mm-hmm. And let's just stay to what we know. Everybody stay in your.
Well, it's more than that because it's in the media too, right? Like, so in my experience in life, the way that the world is perceived in the black community is being fed by different images. You know what I mean? Like and different things through the media. Um, and I think that gets amplified with the internet and social media because social media really does throw you into your bubble. I mean, you throw yourself into your bubble, right? You create your bubble by what you like, what you don't like, what you want to hear, what you don't want to hear. And so you start to reinforce your bubble. That was there before, but it was more of a it wasn't some it was kind of by choice, right? It was because like, okay, if I'm a black person in 1992, you know what I mean? I want to have some attachment to my community. So I'm going to read Jet magazine. I'm going to read Ebony. I'm going to watch BET and things of that nature that most white people are not going to watch. You know what I mean? But over time, all of those mediums got taken over by people, and then the narrations and the messages started getting pushed to people. It was kind of a flip. It really was. It was this change from like this grassroots thing. It was like there to give voice and to create community, and then it got turned on itself to be used as just another form of propaganda. And as a child, as a young person, I always understood that because one of the things that in high school, going to a predominantly black high school, one thing that I heard and respected was this very healthy and robust questioning of the system, questioning of the government, questioning of, you know what I'm saying? Like, and understanding that the politicians are two-tongued, and you know what I mean? Like
Rodney King,
the part of the thing that was, yeah, but part of the thing that was always part of the American spirit to me was having a healthy understanding that power corrupts, and a government always has to be managed by the people. Once you get a government that's managing people, and see, this is what I think, and I humbly will speak my assumptions about some black folks, but I was talking about the healthy.
The First Amendment.
But it's the American spirit of constantly bucking up against the system, constantly questioning the system. And what I was going to say is, so black folks have always felt that the system was trying to manage them, right? Whereas white folks for a long time felt like they were managing the system, right? And that's part of the issue that black folks have, right? Because they're like, wait a minute, white people were managing the system, and we're feeling like the system's managing us. So who's oppressing us is it's white people.
Well,
and what sometimes is missed is that we've only been managing as much as we could, but the system has always been an oppressive machine. It's a beast that is never tamed, that has to be restrained.
Well, and I think that speaks to why Ice Cube is a voice worth listening to right now, is because everything you just said, he's the marriage of that original, like NWA was the marriage of that whole buck the system, question the system, speak truth to power.
Mm-hmm.
It was that whole underground culture.
Hip hop was definitely part of that. Yes.
At the time, all of hip hop was underground.
Yeah.
And what they stood for in the 90s was this sort of, it's something that any well-educated, self-respecting American respects, which is advocating for your own First Amendment right.
Yes, advocating for your rights, period.
There's
and even more. Sorry, go ahead.
I was gonna say, like, it's one of those moments where it transcends just the sort of gangbanger stereotype of hip hop music. It's like there's a sophistication to it, just because it's not coming out of San Fran universities, and just because it's not coming from a hedge fund or a trust fund like Tucker Carlson doesn't mean it's not just as sophisticated. Ice Cube's Ice Cube in that whole clip kind of has this persona of, dude, I have my ear to the ground. Like, I'm kind of limited in what I think I can say about it and what I think I should say about it. But at the end of the day, like, I don't trust these people telling me I got to stick a needle in my arm.
Well, not only that, but as he says, and I think they played in that clip, I don't take direct orders very well.
Yeah.
That's anti-American. For me to sit here and let the government or some establishment or some media group or anybody tell me that I'm going to be ostracized if I don't toe the line, and I have to say I have a big respect for him for doing that. There are not many people that are willing to do that. There are not many people that are willing to take a $9 million hit for something that they believe in. I mean, I know people that took the vaccine because they were offered $100 at work. I know people that were told they couldn't work, and so they went ahead, they got the vaccine because they couldn't. Otherwise, they wouldn't be able to participate. I know people that got it just because they're like, well, if I don't get it, I'm not going to be able to go to a Bengals game or an NBA game or a movie theater. You know, that was the idea at the time. That it was like, you are not going to be able to participate if you don't take this mandated thing that we say is good enough for you. And he said, no, you don't get to dictate that for me. And he said, I'm willing to suffer the consequences. And that is part of the American spirit, because that is what it does take. And sometimes I wonder, man, would I have the courage to do that? But in a way, I mean, I've done it with my whole life because I don't participate. The only way to change this whole thing, the more you participate, the more the machine gets stronger. The more you're like, okay, I want to get in the flow of the economic slavery, and I got to build my stuff, and you know, I'm willing to sell my soul. I'm willing to leave my family for money. I'm willing to do this for money. I'm willing to, when they put money on top of everything, then they've got you. And if you're going to participate in that, then you're participating in that, and you're going to end up like the Nazis or the Jew, whichever side you fall on when they pick sides. But most people are going to jump on the side of power. See, that's what most people are going to do, because they want that safety and security. And somebody like Ice Cube, somebody like Tucker says, no, I'm going to stand on my own. And they're going to be able to do it and have millions of dollars, and they're going to be very comfortable standing on their own. They probably got security and everything. They have more ability to do it than Dillion and I do.
Well, that's the catch-22 of what you're saying, is they very much participated in the system to a certain extent. Like they have their real estate, they have their assets, they have their savings, they have
they're going to survive if they dropped out of the public eye.
And the irony,
go ahead.
The irony is, if you want to buck the system, you have to you have to reach that rung of the ladder. It seems like.
Well, it definitely gives you more power. I mean, if you as Kanye West says, if you have your money right, as Joe Rogan say, I got fuck you money. You know what I mean? When a lot of people don't see themselves as that. See, for me, I don't have fuck you money, but I still got a fuck you attitude. I'm not playing your game. You don't know me. Nobody's buying me. You tell me I can't work, I'm gonna go find a job that doesn't require it. I'm gonna accept my life as it is and say I don't need that much. You can't own me because I want and I desire all the toys, because I don't care about that. And a lot of people are like, well, I want to be, they do it for their ego or whatever. They want to be popular. They want that clout, whatever. And a lot of people sell those souls. I mean, that's just the way of the world. So to kind of pull it back a little bit, one of the things that I found very interesting in this is that Tucker Carlson and Ice Cube are the same age. And I see them as two people that are kind of in the same, like, they've both been canceled, right? They've both been, like, I don't know if Ice Cube's been canceled. I don't know that you can cancel either Ice Cube or Tucker, but neither one of them are no longer kind of invited to the cool kids club. You know what I mean? They're not being invited to the popular kids table right now. They're being kind of shunned a little bit. They're almost like, you used to be cool, But now, since you're not, saying what the cool kids say, you're not gonna get the big Fox money, or I guess Tucker's gonna still get his money, right? But my point is you're not gonna be able to do what you do. You're gonna be canceled.
Yeah, your livelihood's gonna get turned upside down.
Right.
For a while. And see, the other thing we got pulled up there that we were discussing earlier is our RFK, Robert Kennedy Jr. He's very much somebody who's been grown out of the system. He's grown in the system.
Yeah, he's part of American royalty.
And but even one of these Kennedys, even Robert Kennedy, recognizes that. See, Ice Cube is reserved, where RFK Jr., especially if you've seen the Joe Rogan interview, RFK goes on Joe Rogan and is very blunt about how I've been questioning the efficacy of all vaccines for years. I have a degree. I have multiple degrees. I've been involved in the medical field. I've seen the stats. I've crunched the numbers myself.
Yeah.
This industry, in and of itself, has been sketchy from the beginning. And it's like, what do Ice Cube and Tucker Carlson and Robert Kennedy Jr. and Eric Weinstein and Brett Weinstein, what do all of these guys have in common? You couldn't think of an odder hodgepodge of individuals. But again, I think a lot of it boils down to this is the method of regimes, and this is the method of regimes that overthrow democracies, in my opinion, is this MO of compartmentalization, where somebody's got all the receipts, somebody's got the deeds, somebody's got the details somewhere off in their ivory tower, but the whole game of the political situation is the theatrics of, well, what should you know? What can you know? What will you know? We'll tell you what you'll know. And we were discussing this earlier too. The thing that's so ironic about the pandemic scenario over the last 3 years, I think it has something in common with another example of compartmentalization. But the pandemic is a microcosm of this other issue, which is boiling over, and that's the UFO situation. Now, these might seem like apples and oranges, but they're really not, because it's the same MO. It's the same technique. It's the same political technique of divide and conquer. And you divide and conquer, that old cliche of knowledge is power. It is. It is when you control what everyone else knows and what everyone else pays attention to. And now you've got people like Eric Weinstein and Jason Giorgiani and Hal Puthoff. You have all these people rising to the forefront. They're getting this public attention right now because the propaganda machine seems like it's wobbling.
The propaganda machine is wobbling. And see, so you had said something about, this is how it works, right? This is how dictators do it, right? But the examples that we're giving right now of, and we didn't include Joe Rogan, but I'm going to include him up there because Joe Rogan with the Weinsteins, Robert Kennedy Jr., Tucker Carlson, Ice Cube, right? This completely eclectic calico clique, I don't know. I guess Ice Cube's the only non-white guy in there. But they represent the American spirit that makes us what America is. And it is the freedom, even though you still have to worry, like, you're not completely free. Like, these whistleblowers that show up at, these no-name whistleblowers that show up and they talk about the retaliation. People will kill people over some of this information, whether they want it, and if they don't want it out specifically, and that's why some of these guys, that they're big enough that they can protect themselves, because if you can't protect yourself physically or legally, because they'll come after you legally too. These people with big money, if they decide they want to shut you up, they will come after your money. I mean, that's one of the things that they, that's the modern way, right? I don't care if you're Russia or if you're Kanye West, they're going to fuck with your money. They're going to put sanctions on you, so to speak. But for me, this is also the way that it works, because this is what power does. Power corrupts. The fact that we've maintained our Constitution and our 100+ years is actually outstanding. It really is. And we're holding on to it right now. Barely, but we're holding on to it. And to me, it's people like this that are just really important, because for me, I feel like this is the pushback that I need, because now people are starting to listen. You're hearing less and less of them being able to demonize people. You're hearing less and less of them being able to use this cancel tactic, right? Because let's think about Jason Aldean. You heard his song? You didn't hear that song?
I don't think so. Jason Aldean.
So recently he released a video for this song.
Oh, yeah, I didn't hear it. I've seen a lot of Twitter buzz about it, though. I love those ads. Those AdSense.
You gotta watch the video too for all this people about. Yeah, I think that's plenty. So they, CMT decides not to do the video. All they do is help him. So we're getting back to the canceling over ridiculous shit. It's just becoming really apparent. And I think that the independent minded people, or the ones that were kind of sucked in by the anti-Trump fervor, because that was huge. Like, Trump was so polarizing. Like, he really helped set all of this up in a way. Or he just helped expose it because it was happening regardless. You know what I mean? Like, I've got my tinfoil hat on. I'm not afraid to admit it. So my point of bringing that up and saying that is that I think the more people we have, like, and here's another big one, right? Elon Musk and Twitter, right? They had such a stranglehold on us with Twitter, Facebook, and Google. They had a stranglehold on us.
Yeah, there's basically First Amendment deadlock online.
It really was. And that's what they're doing nowadays is they're circumventing the government. The government's not telling you to do it. It's the corporations. The corporations were like, well, you have to do this. If you don't do this, then we're not happy with you. And who's telling the corporations what to do? All the rich people that own them, the stockholders, you know what I mean? The investors, things like that. So I feel like we're breaking through, and another way that I feel like we're breaking through, and I'm going to go back to RFK, is that out of the current candidates, other than Biden, who I don't think is officially announced he's running, has he? Is he? I hope he's not.
I would imagine not. But
oh my God.
I wouldn't have imagined the last 3 years either.
Bruh. I wouldn't imagine that he ran this time. Yeah, he's like,
but yeah,
the candidates that we do have, they are all running on that swell, that groundswell of the American people are tired of the bullshit. They really are. And Donald Trump represents that in a way, and on both sides. I think Donald Trump the funny thing about Donald Trump is, depending on who you're looking at him, he can represent the exact same thing. And that is, he is showing what the establishment really is. Whether you're looking at it as he is part of the establishment that's showing you or you're looking at it as he is fighting it, regardless of which way you're looking at it. He still is saying, look at the establishment. This is what the establishment is. It's a bunch of rich fucking people that are, pulling all these strings and not just the rich people, but it's this kind of shadow government of the intelligence, military, industrial media complex. Whew, that's a mouthful. The corporate media, industrial intelligence bureaucracy. Go ahead. I'm sorry, I cut you off.
I don't know if you did or not, but no, what I was going to say is, like, that's the crux of it. Like, there's a military industrial complex that runs on compartmentalizing information.
Yeah.
On an as need basis.
Yeah.
Like, and that's, again, it's so seamlessly contrasts the UFO phenomena, because right now you got whistleblowers coming out saying, I saw them aliens in Congress on live feed.
I don't think they said they saw aliens. They said that they have witnessed non-human
intelligences,
non-human produced apparatus. They're not claiming they've seen any beings. They've just seen
I might have gone down the Close Encounters rabbit hole a little
well,
deeper.
I did watch it. They're being very careful, and I don't want us to. I think seeing what we say as an unidentified flying object is a lot different than saying I saw an alien.
My point is that that's the degree of ridiculousness
Yeah.
that it's come to a head with, and that's damn near 100 years in the making. Ever since Roswell, essentially ever since we've been detonating nuclear weapons, people have been seeing goofy shit flying around. That's not an airplane, and it's not a bird, and it ain't Superman.
Right.
People have had these stories for hundreds of years. You have all these abductees like Travis Scott, if that's his name. I don't think it is. Whoever the fire in the sky guy is, but he's one of hundreds of people.
Yeah.
And it's like it's all been Bigfoot.
Yeah.
It's all been the Loch Ness monster.
Yeah.
For the last century. And it's kind of ironic to me that starts coming to a head. You start getting all these David Grushes and these Commander Fravers and all of these various other whistleblowers coming out saying, not like I'm up in the sky, driving the jet. I'm seeing this shit too. At the same time, you have that coming to a head. Again, there's this microcosm of that same compartmentalized divide and conquer with the information. The microcosm of that pretty much was the pandemic. And that's what Ice Cube and Carlson, that's what they're getting at in that interview. And it's like all of these things.
Well, Carlson's been doing it too because he's not vaccinated either.
Yeah.
They didn't really come after him for that, but.
But all the same, like that's the issue there.
I'm sure that there were plenty of articles written about how Tucker didn't whatever.
I mean, that's the issue that's brought those two together.
Yeah.
But it's like between that and RFK going to see Joe Rogan and Eric Weinstein talking to Hal Puthoff. Eric Weinstein's as much of like a normie scientist as it gets. Like this guy has his mathematics degree from Harvard.
Mm-hmm.
Like he has been balls deep in theoretical physics since he's thought about graduating high school. Like that's been his life. And now, to be honest, I think you're a little bit more optimistic about where all this is going than I am, because there is a lot of sketchy, shady information that's boiling up to the surface. And as much as I appreciate Jason Aldean's sentiment there, not to sound like Tim Pool, if you know who that is, but
I know Tim.
There's a big, like, this to me spells. If the information that boils to the surface is big enough, I think you're going to have a hard time seeing anything other than division.
So I want to kind of address what you said there about my optimism. See, one thing is I'm looking at a very, very long view, right? And I'm looking at a very long view in the respect that this is what history does. We are at the end of the Pax Americana, the peace that became because America was the big superpower of the world. Since we are an offshoot, since we are the grandchild of Rome, the great grandchild of Greece, the child of England, and the European reassertions of the Roman Empire as they saw it. We are in the cycles of that. And part of that cycle is that you get so much control and then you kill yourself from the inside and you get attacked from all sides outside.
I'm listening.
And I'm not, and so we're in that moment in history, but we're also in a different kind of moment in history because the American experiment of where the people are, at least on paper, the managers of the government versus the government managing the people. And what we're seeing is that our government has push back on the Constitution, push back on the Constitution, push back on the Constitution, created these separate courts and these separate laws and these separate organizations and these separate classifications of secret that they've been able to create this other kind of government. And they've also enabled corporations to really kind of gain their power and start throwing their weight around, specifically the bankers. I mean, the actuarials that are telling the insurance companies how to make the most money off of us. Okay, so why am I optimistic, though? Well, it's like this. I'm in a war, right? And I've got an uphill battle, and they got more people than me. And we're holding our ground, or we're sliding down the hill, regardless of what it is. It's muddy, and it's bloody, and guess what? Some reinforcements just showed up. And for whatever reason, fucking their trumpeters are not blowing right as hard as they were. You know what I mean? They're not yelling as loud as they were. You know what I mean? So that's where my optimism is, because in the greater scheme of the struggle, I feel like we're getting stronger. I feel like some rationality is coming back to the thing. You know what I mean? I feel like, with people like Ice Cube, and they're going to quiet him down. People like Kanye, they're going to quiet him down. But the voices from the Black community, and I think we're going to see that there are going to be voices from the Hispanic community as well, because Hispanic people are traditionally very conservative. They're not for all this gay shit and all this other stuff. You know what I mean? So the Democratic Party right now is on its heels. They were on their toes. We were knocked down to the fucking mat, getting back up. Didn't even realize we had been knocked out. It happened so fast with COVID.
And it's going to be really telling to see whether RFK gets burnied by the DNC.
He's already burnied. There's no doubt about it. He is not going to get the Democratic nomination. There's no way. If he gets the Democratic nomination, I will believe the hell froze over. I will believe the pigs flew just as much as I believe the Dumbo flew.
I might be optimistic.
You think he's going to get it?
If he gets it,
there's no way he's getting it.
Then I'll be a little optimistic.
They're trying to push him out right now they're trying to push him out like they did Tulsi Gabbard. The difference between him and Tulsi Gabbard is he's got the same thing that me and Joe Rogan got, which is that fuck you, and the Ice Cube and the people we're talking about is that fuck you attitude, right? Because see, Tulsi, she's a little bit tied to it all, right? She wants to be president. She's a little bit tied to the machine, even though she's somewhat independent, right? And God bless her. I love Tulsi Gabbard. I support her and what she does overall. As an individual doing her thing. Like, I'm not saying I agree with everything she says or anything like that. But I would consider her for president easily. They pushed her out. Why? Because she's not playing Nancy Pelosi Democrat. She's not a Pelosi Democrat. You know what I mean? And right now they got a bunch of Pelosi Democrats, and the Pelosi Democrat motto is team only. Period. End of conversation. If it's not what the team want, if you're not on the team, if you're not supporting the team, you're done.
No. Simon didn't say.
Yeah, exactly. Simon didn't say. Nancy didn't say. So, or the party didn't say, whatever, right? And she's kind of got it. She's like, hey, we got to stick together. We got to stay cohesive. You know what I mean? That's why they were able to knock us down without us really seeing it coming. We didn't even know it was happening, right? It's the next thing you know, you're like, holy shit. Look at all, and look, I've said this and I'll say this over and over. The Republicans are not innocent either.
Yeah, no. Same page.
I'm bashing on some Democrats right now, but they're two sides of the same coin, and that coin isn't for the American citizen, and that's the problem. The coin is for those rich motherfuckers and the big corporations. That's part of the imbalance that we have. But here's my thing. That's part of the struggle of what it takes to keep and maintain this republic. Civilization, groups of large people are always going to have the strongest survive. If I can kick your ass, I can take your shit. At the end of the day, there's always somebody waiting to knock the big lion down. There's always somebody waiting to knock the big alpha down. There's always a younger stronger, whatever. You know what I mean? And so as the United States and the headway we've made, RFK talks about how, the Republic of the United States in 1776 or 1805 or whatever was the only one in the world where you had at least the idea of a democratic republic, that you didn't have a monarch, you didn't have a dictator. It was set up specifically to not have that type of authoritarian government.
Yeah, we talked about that last week.
Yeah, but we didn't record that, remember?
Well, yeah, but we did discuss that last week, how his whole congressional hearing was over the issue of censorship.
Yeah.
And how that's definitely what was being brought down on him. And there's a whole system of checks and balances in place because democracies have a habit historically of eating themselves, because the quickest, slickest oil salesman typically ends up running the show at some point. And America was arranged with its Bill of Rights and its constitutions, and the First Amendment is where it's at and all of that. It's number one, because that is fundamental to, we have this apparatus of a Republican structure to preserve the democratic ideals. The idea of democracy, the idea of America was that you could use democracy as a spring point. You could use it as a launching pad. It gets a little squirrelier and it gets a little more complicated when it comes to running a giant continent-spanning nation, where you're trying to make sure that everybody in every corner of the world had some sort of representation.
Yeah.
And the First Amendment is essential to that.
The way that RFK kind of puts it is that the way that the framers of the Constitution, and the reason why they put the freedom of speech and the freedom of assembly, the freedom of thought, right? These freedoms to express ourselves, right? Why they are number one is because the way that they understood it is it's a trickle up effect. So in the marketplace of ideas, the ideas are all coming into the marketplace, and then the cream's supposed to rise to the top. The cream, the good ideas, right? They get vetted and filtered, and right, and then it's not just the ideas of the people on the street like me and you and even Ice Cube, right? Just Citizen Joe kind of people, right? Those ideas swell up, and then the way it's supposed to be is we elect people to represent us. Well, where do we elect them? Locally, we elect them at the state, the city, county level. Excuse me for burping again. We elect them at the national level, and they're supposed to represent us, right? And they take our ideas and they debate them, right? Because look, somebody in New York may not like the idea of somebody in California. Somebody that lives in a highly urbanized place may not like the ideas of somebody that lives in Wyoming. You know what I mean? Vice versa. And so the thing is they come into Congress, they come into the House, and we also have our checks and balances with the president and our courts, and that these ideas, they get honed out so that some kind of consensus can rise out of those ideas, right? It's not about one person getting what they want. It's about creating a consensus of sorts, right? It's about finding the compromises that we can on all the different people and all their different wants and needs. And so that's the importance of the freedom of speech, and that's the importance of democracy and of the individual having the freedom to express himself and to do what he can do to gather people, like-minded people, to get his ideas out.
And you know who's working directly in opposition to that?
The alphabet people?
No. Same people that came down on RFK's uncle.
Yeah. Well, what was my answer just now?
Not the alphabet people, but the military-industrial complex.
Who do you think the alphabet people are? Who's controlling the military-industrial complex? I guarantee it's the intelligence communities. Who are they listening to?
Oh,
intelligence.
Okay.
Right?
Okay.
Who's telling the military
Dave,
what the threat is?
I was thinking Dave Chappelle alphabet people. I was like, I don't know what
No. Sorry. And I just realized that because we got the alphabet people, we talk about like LGBTQ plus. We got alphabet people where we talk about, government agencies, and we've got alphabet people where we talk about Google, right? Google is called alphabet, right? Like, so anyway,
but the irony is the aristocracy is what's underground right now.
Yeah, and what is that? That aristocracy are mafia families. That's what this country is built on. Like, people think, oh, this country is built under Christian values. First of all, no. The early founders, they were not necessarily Christians. I don't think Ben Franklin or Thomas Jefferson would necessarily call themselves Christians. They might call themselves Unitarians. They might call themselves Libertarians. They may call themselves deists. But many of them were not, definitely not today's Christian. Definitely not. Thomas Jefferson was definitely not. Thomas Jefferson had a Bible called the Jesus Bible. Thomas Jefferson took the Bible and took out anything that was not the word of Jesus and took it out and removed it. That was his Bible. The words of Jesus is all he wanted. The red letters. You know what I mean? Like, he was not your modern day. These guys were not your modern day Christians. They were actually, they were kind of deists.
There's Egyptian obelisks littering.
Because they were lovers of history and antiquity and art, and that the great wisdom of what they claim is the Western, because they were trying to take all the best of all the different civilizations. They were trying to take the best and put them into our own. But you're right. I forget why I brought that up.
Yeah. My only point I was trying to make there was it's a great time right now to garner an occult education, especially when it comes to the Freemasons that founded the country.
Yeah. And there's no doubt about that, right? There's always been organizations that want to manifest the world the way they see it. That's another benefit of the democracy, though, is that somebody like Tesla can be heard even years after he's passed. If he's in Russia, all his shit gets burnt. They just ignore him. They just erase his ass from the history, right? Like, that's the benefit of the United States. And so, yeah, I am positive, because I do feel that this has been a constant struggle. We've never been to the ideal. Never. Not fully, and that struggle to be free of the, people like to throw around the term patriarchy. And I don't know if I really like that term, but I think sometimes it expresses the world that I often describe when I say that, like, if I can kick your ass, I make the rules. You know what I mean? Like, that's kind of the undergirding of what a patriarchy is like, who's in charge and why, right? And why were men in charge for all the time? Because they could kick their ass, right? Like, that's simple.
And right? If you spend any time studying the limited history of matriarchies, you'll find same principle still applies. It's just turned around, and there's a different group of people now asking, so where's the power?
Who's the badass? Yeah. Well, power corrupts, and it's tough. It's tough to run a group of people, and I mean, there's a lot that goes into it, and there's a lot that politicians get blamed for. But at the end of the day, we go back to the United States Constitution is set up so that the people manage the government. And unfortunately, too often, the government, the elites, whomever, right now it could be academia, it could be Hollywood, it could be, what did I say here earlier? Media and journalism, academia, government, our American royalty. When I think, like, when I say American royalty, who do you think of?
That's a good question. I mean, just because it's fresh in my mind, I think of the Kennedys.
Fair enough, right? That's definitely American royalty. Like there's
Right
a lot of
now.
people that the Kennedys speak, and people are like, oh, Kennedy, blah, blah, blah.
Kennedys, Bushes,
Like
the Bidens.
definitely. If you've had more than one person in big government positions, specifically the presidency, yeah. The most recent ones, yeah, you kind of become royalty. I'm going to throw, I'll throw Jay-Z and Beyonce in as American royalty. I'll throw the Kardashians in as American royalty. There are some people that are American royalty that are outside of politics. They're merchants, the Hiltons. And I'm sure everybody has their own ideas of what American royalty is, but there is some sense of American royalty, right? And maybe I've included some people that don't belong, but I think the Kennedys are definitely one. I think the Bushes would be one. And the Biden, and then you start looking at these crime families,
There's always a
and look, they're all crime families because they're all skirting the rules. They're all basically working on mafia kind of moralities. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. But that's also part of the American spirit because, who was it that was strong enough to say, "Fuck the king"? It was the gangsters, man. It was the people with balls. It was the people with some money that had some fuck you money going on, or at least they had a fuck you attitude.
It was the 20-year-old hyper-educated land inheritors of land.
Yeah. Very good point, right? And so, but who is John Hancock? He's a smuggler, right? Like most of these guys are smugglers, rum runners. Yeah, they might be doing some legal shit, but they're also
the NWAs.
I mean, they're the NWAs of the time, right? Because the part of the reason why they're so upset is that the British government is so oppressive.
And I think that's
to everything that they're doing, all the money they're making, And
I think that speaks to something I've realized very slowly over the last few years. I think this country is on its death knell, mainly because I see this country punishing young people for achieving.
This country does not promote its own. There's no doubt about it. It brings in way too much competition.
I think
it brings in way too much bullshit. They support,
They're flocking to OnlyFans and video games and these bizarre social justice ideologies. Maybe you think that's going a little too far, but there's no that's the way to put it. I think what you just said, it does not promote its own. We're currently in the midst of replacing.
No, we are willing to send checks for $500 million repeatedly over to Ukraine. But when it comes to bailing out an individual American, and here's what's funny is it could be the Democrats or it doesn't matter. Like they'll pick their fucking ways. But at the end of the day, when it comes to bailing out the individual, they'll spend millions and billions of dollars bailing out the rich. No problem. Oh my gosh, the mortgage industry went under. We gotta support these banks. Got to make sure that we bail out the banks. They literally were talking about bailing out. But ask them to bail out one guy from his student loans. Ask them to bail out anybody from their debt.
I'll take it one step further. How many
people has our government really bailed out?
How many 18 and 20-year-olds have gotten blown up over the last 30 years, essentially for oil profits that we could have completely supplanted by building infrastructure and oil drills
right here
in Alaska,
right here in our own land.
But instead, if you don't take my point about the political theater that goes on, and if you don't take my point, if you don't see how that's related to the way that newer generations have been perpetually more and more punished over the last 50 years, stop and ask yourself, how many young people did we sacrifice overseas for oil profits that we could have supplanted right here building infrastructure and economic prosperity in our own country. If you don't see political theater in that,
yeah,
you got some reading to do. You got some red pills.
There's a lot of red pills. There's a lot of smoke and mirrors to try to see through. And I'm gonna start wrapping it up a little bit for us here, but I want to say that I really appreciate the Black community for a lot of what they've done, even though I feel like, don't get me wrong, that's been politicized too, but I'm not ignorant. I know enough Black folks to know that not everybody's toeing the line, that, they love to kind of put it out there like all these groups, all these compartments are united, but they're not. They're not necessarily all united. They want to divide everybody. See, if I can put you in this tribe, then I can put you against this other tribe. If I can put you in this compartment, I can antagonize you against another compartment. And if I can keep you guys fighting, well, I can keep on putting these pork barrel bills together where I just put all kinds of stuff in, and then 20 years later, you don't even realize, 20 years later, we're looking at the results of President Bush in the Patriot Act and everything that's followed. And Robert Kennedy, Jason Aldean, Joe Rogan, the people that have said, you're not going to shut me up. I'm an American. I'm a citizen, which means I have the individual right and freedom to think and feel and express myself and to find like-minded people that either enjoy what I'm saying or want to add to it. And that other people can have the freedom to disagree with me. Right? Because to me, free speech, we have these qualifications on free speech in this country that is it hate speech? Does it incite violence? So basically, if I just start walking around punching people because say the word can I make the word anti-free speech? Because one of the restraints is I could just say that incites me to violence, right? Like that's what they say. If language incites violence, then it's no. If you commit violence, then you commit a crime. If you are sharing your thoughts and opinions, I don't care what you say or who you offend. You should have the right and freedom to say it. And if somebody doesn't like it, they can either one, choose not to listen, or they can use their words to prove and show you wrong. But if you're using violence, now you've done a criminal act. See, violence is not protected by the Constitution. Violence against speech should not be protected in some form of censorship. That's BS. And so I really do. The Weinsteins, the Kennedy, Aldean, and Mr. O'Shea Jackson, aka Ice Cube. I'm really grateful for those people. I'm grateful that we have them. I think that I will not be surprised if more of the Black community to see a Tucker Carlson and Ice Cube, to see this yuppie white kid, I keep saying bouncing around the room with fish. I just understand that he was a big Fish fan and that he would go to Fish concerts. So he was like a deadhead. And to me, that's really a juxtaposition against Ice Cube and the gangster, the South Central LA. His college was
the frat boy and the gangbanger.
Right. The frat boy and the gangbanger. Exactly. You know what I mean? Because that
makes me optimistic.
You would very rarely see, right?
That's the right. That's the one thread that it's
like to see Ice Cube, this South Central LA gangster rapper, like one of the bigger influences in that genre of music.
And Tucker Carlson's the one sitting in the limo trying to goad him into going a little further. Like, come on, just say it. Those are optics that are nice to see.
And it's more than an optic because those two men decided that they wanted to do it because they found themselves in a similar position of being the man that stands on his own. With that said, everybody, thank you so much for watching. Thanks for tuning in. Look for more live episodes. We're gonna look at some schedules. You know, we're what did you call us earlier? This is a little half baked. You know, this is just something that we do because we enjoy it, because we like talking about these things, and we really are hoping that you know, other people like them and want to just join us in this marketplace of ideas, right? So if that's you, thank you. Thanks for your support. We'll give a shout out to Maurice and Rahima. Happy birthday to both of y'all. They are a couple that I know, and both their birthdays are like back to back to back. And with that said, before I go out, remember that this episode is brought to you by water, good old H2O. Make sure you drink a little bit. It's really healthy for you. Thanks, everybody. See you next time. Bye. Take care. See you next time. Click the red button. Okay, we're leaving now. We're actually gone now.